Hello there, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you here on the news tonight. And this Friday, there's lots making news. We'll get you details of that in a bit in the next 30 minutes. I'm Tracy Shilshi. I'll be getting you all those details. But first, the headlines. Home Minister Rajnath Singh softens the rhetoric, assures Pakistani Rangers that Indian forces will not fire the first bullet, but asks them to check infiltration along the border. 9 years after the 7/11 Mumbai serial bomb blast that killed 188 people, 12 accused are found guilty. The families of the victims demand the death penalty for all. Congress BJP war of words continue even at the inauguration of the international terminal at Chandigarh. Prime Minister Modi blames Congress's MPs for conspiring to hamper the country's development. Meat ban fever spreads across India. Chhattisgarh joins Gujarat and Rajasthan in banning meat sales during the Jain festival. And IIP figures are released for July. Industrial production grows at 4.2% in July against 0.9% a year ago. Top story this evening, Home Minister Rajnath Singh has assured visiting Pakistani Rangers that Indian forces will not fire the first bullet along the international border. But he also asked Pakistan to ensure terrorists do not infiltrate into India. His remarks came on a day when 2 Jawans and 2 militants were killed during an encounter in Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara district, and Pakistani troops violated ceasefire again in Rajouri district.
At a time when the DG of BSF and Pak Rangers are busy holding talks to reduce tension along the LOC and international border, Pakistani troops resorted to unprovoked firing in Rajouri, forcing Indian troops to retaliate. There have been more than 10 such incidents in the first few days of this month. Casualties, both civilian and military, in the recent spat of firing between forces in the past few months have been reported. Home Minister Rajnath Singh assured the Pak border guard delegation that Indian troops will adopt a no first fire policy, but won't back down if fired at.
You can gauge the positivity of this meeting by the fact that meeting was originally scheduled to take place only yesterday, but to work out the nitty-gritty of the mechanism, we are meeting today also. So this is something very unusual.
The Home Minister also asked the Pak delegation to ensure that there is no infiltration of terrorists. His words came shortly after a gun battle in Handwara in Kashmir, in which 2 army personnel and 2 terrorists were killed. The gun battle began last night after the army cordoned off an area where terrorists were believed to be hiding.
फिर से मुठभेड़ हुई है, 2 आतंकी मारे गए, 2 आर्मी के जवान भी।
अभी रिपोर्ट लेंगे। कल ही यहाँ पे बातचीत हुआ। देखिए वो जो घटना है उसको हम लोग देखेंगे कि क्या है, रिपोर्ट लिया नहीं।
This is the first meeting between India and Pakistan after the first high-level peace talks between the two countries collapsed at the 11th hour a fortnight ago. Pakistan Rangers raised the need of greater communication between the 2 border guarding troops at the meet in New Delhi on Friday. Bureau Report, Sabha TV.
Well, for more on this story, let's speak to senior journalist Netaji Srivastav, who's joining us from the capital. Sanjeev, what do you make of these talks? Is it actually going to, perhaps take it forward on a positive note as far as India and Pakistan, diplomatic talks are concerned?
I think at least the right note has been struck by the Home Minister. We should see it in perspective. These DGMO level talks are happening at a time when the 2 national security advisors were supposed to meet last month, and those talks didn't happen because of confusion of Hurriyat participation in talks. Hurriyat leaders meeting the Pakistani High Commissioner and the National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz of Pakistan. India objected to that, and there was a lot of hoo-halla on both sides. And the only effort one saw in Islamabad and Delhi was now how to hold the talks, but how to not hold the talks but put the blame on the other. So having said that, they are again trying to move back as to how dialogue can progress. And these DGMO level talks are particularly significant because last few months one has seen a sudden acceleration or escalation in terms of border conflict, especially when civilians are also being targeted. So if there is some level of confidence building, some level of communication between Pakistani Rangers and border security force officials on the border who man these posts, it's very important that they are in touch with each other, they are talking to each other, so that at least these skirmishes on the border, the violation of ceasefire violations stop, and killings not only of army people on both sides, but also of civilians, particularly on the Indian side. So many lives have been lost that this comes to an end. Only then will there be the right atmosphere for some serious effort to resume the talks.
So are you saying that the statements that have come from both sides, especially from the DGMO level talks, this is definitely going to ease the tension on the border? Because until today, we are definitely not seeing any kind of, standoffishness coming from Pakistan's side. They're just going ahead with violations, or for that matter, infiltration, from other parts of the border as well.
Tracy, at least for the last 20-25 years, since the Kashmir issue is on the boil, when it started all in the late 80s, India and Pakistan talks have followed a similar pattern. So it's very difficult at what stage they will break down, at what stage they will resume, only to break down at a later stage. So what happened was that when India and Pakistani prime ministers met on the sidelines of a multilateral forum in Russia a few weeks ago, they decided that they'll press ahead with talks, and the first level of talks will be at a pretty senior level. National security advisors, virtually number two, defense minister and foreign minister combined, the two national security advisors. But that didn't happen. Now these DGMO level talks were scheduled. If the right atmospherics are created here, again the Indian Prime Minister is going to visit the US later this month on the sidelines of UN General Assembly, when the Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will also be there. Again, there'll be speculation in the run-up to those, the two leaders, when they'll be there, there'll be speculation that is there a possibility of having a summit-level exchange there. But the point is, whether they meet or not on the sidelines of UN in New York, that's not as important. But to somehow build that level of trust, that regardless of what happens, they are going to continue their engagement. Because what we have seen since the grand gesture of Prime Minister of having called the SAARC heads of state, including Nawaz Sharif, for his oath-taking ceremony, you take a couple of steps forward only to take 3 or 4 steps back. So every time an atmosphere is created,
which is why I ask you this question, Sanjeev.
And yes, largely the Pakistani army is to be blamed for that.
Which is why I ask you, all these statements that are coming in on the ground, does it actually make any difference?
Line disconnect ho gayi.
All right, we seem to have lost that connection there with Sanjeev, who of course was giving us an idea really of the talks between India and Pakistan for years now. We have seen, of course, the rhetoric rise, and then again, we do see these talks, which eventually, of course, perhaps is a positive step, at least a step ahead in, finding that peace on the border. We'll keep an eye on developments there. But then talking of terror, to a terror-related case now, 9 years since a 7/11 serial blast in Mumbai, 12 accused people have been found guilty, 5 of them for murder. As the special Makoka court delivered the verdict, families of those killed demanded the death penalty for all accused.
9 years after serial bomb blasts aboard its trains rattled Mumbai, killing 188 people, 12 of the 13 accused have been convicted. 1 was acquitted. All 12 of those convicted have links with the banned outfit Simi. 5 of them have been held guilty for murder, a charge that could attract the death penalty.
Out of the 13 accused, 1 accused has been given a clean sheet. He has been acquitted of all the charges which he was charged. So far as the other accused are concerned, I must say that mainly they are found guilty of the offence under 120B, that is of conspiracy, read with 302 and 311 of the MCOC Act. So section 311 of the MCOC Act and 302 are the 2 sections which attract death penalty.
In the original charge sheet filed by the Anti-Terrorism Squad in November 2006, 30 people were named. 17 of those are absconding. It is believed that 13 out of these are Pakistani nationals. In the list of those absconding is Azam Chima, believed to be an LAT member.
180 लोग 88 लोगों की जो जाने गई थी, करीब 900 लोग इंजर्ड हुए थे, बहुत सारे परिवार बर्बाद हुए थे, उनको न्याय मिल गया है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है.
In the charge sheet, ATS had said that the improvised explosive devices used in the blasts were made in a room in Govandi in suburban Mumbai. 7 explosions had rocked the first-class coaches of many suburban trains on July 11, 2006.
ये एक्यूज जो है असली एक्यूज तो है नहीं, ये नकली है. इन्होंने से भी पकड़ करके गाड़ी में बिठा दिया है इनको सजा देके मेरे हिसाब से तो कोई फायदा नहीं है. असली गुनाहगार है जो लोग हैं वो तो पाकिस्तान भाग गए, यहाँ तो है नहीं, इनके हाथ में पकड़ में भी नहीं आए.
Arguments for the quantum of sentence are likely to begin on Monday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today gave vent to the government's frustration in being unable to get key reform bills passed in Parliament. Targeting the Congress, he alleged that the 40 MPs are conspiring to hamper the country's development against the wishes of 400 MPs. He said this in Chandigarh, where he had inaugurated a new international terminal. Here are more details.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi dedicated to the nation the new airport terminal in northern Chandigarh. The new airport will cater to both domestic and international flights and is expected to boost industrial and economic development in Punjab and Haryana.
चंडीगढ़ की शोभा बढ़ाने वाला ये एयरपोर्ट बना है, टर्मिनल बना है और इतना ही नहीं, सारे इलाके के लिए ये हवाई सेवा की सुविधाएं आर्थिक विकास के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी अहम भूमिका अदा करेगी.
Later addressing a rally, Modi hit out at the Congress over the deadlock in Parliament. He said 40 MPs are conspiring to hamper the country's development against the wishes of 400 MPs, which is an insult to democracy.
लोकतंत्र की मर्यादाओं को स्वीकार न करना, लोकतंत्र के नियमों का स्वीकार नहीं करना और 400 पार्लियामेंट के मेंबरों की परवाह न करना, लेकिन 40 लोग देश के भविष्य के सामने रोड़े अटकाने के लिए षड्यंत्र करते रहे, ये भारत के लोकतंत्र के साथ खिलवाड़ है.
Ahead of the Prime Minister's visit, around 500 Congress workers were taken into preventive custody by police here, apprehending the possibility of a breach of the peace. Congress workers said they had planned to show black flags to Modi. The new air terminal is a joint venture by the Airports Authority of India and the two states of Punjab and Haryana, who share their capital, Chandigarh.
ये हम लोगों ने जो अभी एग्जिस्टिंग कैपेसिटी हमारी टर्मिनल की है उसकी 4 गुना साइज का हम लोगों ने टर्मिनल बनाया. भविष्य में यहाँ के फ्यूचर ग्रोथ को देखते हुए जो कि 15% की ग्रोथ रजिस्टर्ड की गई है पिछले साल के मुकाबले में, और इसकी एरिया जो है करीब 53,000 स्क्वायर मीटर में हम लोगों ने फैलाव में इस एयरपोर्ट को विकसित किया है.
Later, Modi regretted the inconvenience caused to citizens in Chandigarh during his visit. Calling the inconvenience totally avoidable, he said a probe will be ordered to fix responsibility for closing down schools. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Industrial production grew at 4.2% in July against 0.9% a year ago. The mining, manufacturing and electricity sectors also grew in the month of July. Mining grew at 1.3%, manufacturing at 4.7% and electricity at 3.5% as compared to July 2014. 12 of the 22 industry groups in the manufacturing sector have shown positive growth. Basic goods grew at a rate of 5.2% and capital goods at 10.6%. The overall growth in consumer goods was recorded at 1.3%. Now, the meat ban fever is spreading further across India. Chhattisgarh today joined Gujarat and Rajasthan in banning the meat sales during the Jain festival of Paryushan. In fact, Rajasthan ordered a ban on the sale of fish as well. Meanwhile, the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai has withdrawn the meat ban on the 13th and the 18th of September. The Chhattisgarh government, on the other hand, ordered the ban during the entire 8-day-long fasting period and also Ganesh Chaturthi festival.
See, what has happened is in fact a follow-up to a court order issued by the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir, and therefore it has to be taken in the spirit of the order in which it has been issued. The ruling party in the state or at the centre has nothing to do it should not be given a political color.
That this Hindustan is likely to become Banistan because for your food, for your movement, for your business, for your talk, for your everything that you need, government sanction or there is some ban or the other. We'll have to consider what are the compulsions for imposition of such bans. I think it is not justified.
Fundamentally, the question is that does the state have the right to transgress into the kitchens of people? You are dictating culinary choices by banning sale. Tomorrow, you will try and dictate them by telling people what to eat.
Without a quick break here, but still ahead, the West Bengal government has decided to declassify over 60 files related to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Details of that ahead.
Bugle sounded. Bihar enters election mood. Massive stakes, an intensifying political slugfest. Where do the players stand? Watch the big picture at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back to the news tonight, and now we're turning our focus to the Bihar elections. NDA allies are now stepping up the pressure on the BJP to finalize a seat-sharing deal for the assembly polls. In fact, a day after meeting Anant Kumar in Delhi, RSTV chief Upendra Kushwaha also said that the BJP needs to be more generous towards its allies when deciding on how many seats should each contest. His statement comes a day after he said that the BJP is free to take a final call on the issue. According to sources, while the BJP is keen to contest in over 150 seats, leaving fewer seats for allies LJP, RLSP and Jitaram Manjhi's HAMS, BJP is under pressure to allot more seats to the allies amid a tussle between Manjhi and LJP chief Ramvilas Paswan.
सीटों की संख्या को लेकर आपस में सहमति नहीं बन पाई है, यही कारण है। लेकिन मुझको लगता है कि अब ज़्यादा विलम्ब नहीं होगा। वैसे हम आग्रह करना चाहते हैं तमाम संबंधित दल के नेताओं से कि अब सब लोग मिलकर फैसला कर लें। भारतीय जनता पार्टी को भी थोड़ी उदारता दिखानी चाहिए और बाकी घटक दल के लोग हैं उनको भी बहुत जिच नहीं करना चाहिए। जल्दी कुछ न कुछ निर्णय पर आ जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि ज़्यादा विलम्ब होगा तो थोड़ा नुकसान होगा। ऐसे ही पहले काफ़ी विलम्ब हो गया।
जो हमारे प्रति जनता का एक झुकाव देखने को मिला, उसी को हम मानते हैं कि आप लोग मानिए समझिए कि जीतन मांझी का क्या वहाँ पर आधार है, और उस आधार और उन लोगों की जो अपेक्षाएं हैं उसके आधार पर आप सीट का बंटवारा कीजिए। वो बंटवारा कीजिएगा अनुकूल तो आपको फायदा होगा।
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में, राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी के नेतृत्व में समूचा एनडीए बिहार के अंदर एकजुट है। मांझी जी, उपेंद्र कुशवाहा जी, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रदेश इकाई, सारे लोगों के साथ हमारे वरिष्ठ मंत्री, पार्टी के पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड की सदस्य अनंत कुमार जी डिटेल बात कर रहे हैं।
The West Bengal government has decided to declassify government documents on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee made this announcement today. She said that the move has been initiated after checking all angles, including those of the country's security. These files would now be readied and kept in police archives to see. She also urged the centre to declassify other files related to the freedom fighter.
যত ফাইল আছে আমাদের কাছে নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বোস সংক্রান্ত, কিছু ফাইল মুখার্জি কমিশন চেয়েছিল, সিক্রেটলি আমরা দেখিয়েছিলাম, বাট পরে আবার নিয়ে আসা হয়েছিল। এই নিয়ে টোটাল যত আমাদের কাছে ডকুমেন্ট আছে, এই ডকুমেন্টগুলো আমরা পাবলিক ডোমেইনে দিয়ে দেবো আগামী শুক্রবার থেকে।
It was my demand, our party demand at the same time. I've raised this issue in the last session in West Bengal Assembly. I'm happy. We welcome the decision because it is demanded not only the BJP, I think the people of West Bengal, the Bengali psyche desperately wanted this thing for so long.
I would appeal to the central government, to Sri Narendra Modi ji, the Honorable Prime Minister, that he must immediately declassify 130 files which are there with the central government. And along with this, he must write to the Russian authorities to release the KGB, the erstwhile KGB files, which are pertaining to Subhash Chandra Bose. And at the same time, the British authorities, the files that they are maintaining, they must also be released.
With that, let's take you through other updates from across the country in Nationwide. The Sensex and Nifty ended the week session flat as investors remain wary ahead of the IIP and CPI figures. The Sensex ended down by nearly 12 points to close at 25,610, while Nifty ended up by just a point at 7,789. Markets are on track after receiving support from higher Asian shares following the strengthening of Wall Street. The NIA has announced cash rewards for 6 terrorists in connection with last month's Udhampur terror strike at a BSF convoy. Cash rewards for them go up to 8 lakh rupees. The NIA has so far arrested 3 people, including one Pakistani terrorist involved in the attack. The Supreme Court has extended the stay on the arrest of activist Teesta Setalvad and her husband Javed Anand in a corruption case by 4 more weeks till the 15th of October. The two have been accused of violating financial laws in connection with funding given to them by the US-based Ford Foundation. The Home Ministry has suspended her NGO under the FCRA. The Supreme Court has also asked the CBI to take over all 185 Vyapam scam cases, irrespective of the stages of investigation that they are in. The Special Investigation Team has been asked to extend all cooperation to the CBI. The investigating agency is to file its next status report by the 9th of October. Students of Delhi University and JNU queued up at polling centres to cast their votes to elect their student union bodies. Voting for DUSU post is taking place in 2 phases with 35 candidates in fray. Counting of votes will take place tomorrow at both the universities. The centre has confirmed that 6 Indians have been killed after their boat came under Saudi-led airstrikes in Yemen earlier this week. The victims were among 7 Indians who were initially reported missing in the incident. On Tuesday, 2 boats carrying a total of 21 Indian nationals came under aerial attack. The Indian Embassy in Yemen's camp office in Djibouti has been constantly in touch with authorities and local contacts to get more details. Some media reports quoting residents and fishermen had claimed that 20 Indians were killed at that attack at the port. Meanwhile, Hungarian authorities are increasingly struggling to cope with the influx of migrants. Human rights activists describe the situation in transition camps at the border as inhuman, saying that the thousands of migrants are being held in cramped spaces like cattle. Hungary has been a continuous flashpoint with its reluctance to provide support to the migrants.
Migrants seeking refuge in Europe living life in a dismal state in Hungary. Battered by months of travel, the migrants are reduced to fighting for food and aid, even in refugee camps. The media is banned from the premises. The lack of support in Hungary has been criticized by human rights activists. Emergency Director of Human Rights Watch said the migrants were held like cattle in pens.
The government so far is not doing anything. I mean, they are disorganized. They don't give these people the basic human support. They don't provide them with food and shelter. They don't want to do it, I guess, because it could be done. Civil services or civilians can do that, then the government should be able to do that too.
We don't deny that what's going on in Hungary is a huge crisis, and it's not solely in the hand of the Hungarian government to solve it. The refugee system of the EU is in crisis, and the EU leaders together need to come up with a solution. But what we do with the people who are actually here in this very moment is very different from that.
The European Commission has proposed an additional 120,000 asylum seekers to be shared between the 28 member states. But the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland and Slovakia have rejected the proposals.
In order to deal with the refugee situation, we need more than ever an economically strong Europe, which is capable of taking action. That's another reason why we are working to keep Europe together. and to solve Europe's economic and institutional problems, especially in the Eurozone.
Refugees who are coming to Europe looking for protection, who have already suffered so much and risked their lives to come here to find safety, should be treated in a humane way. They should not be received with police batons and with tear gas and with barbed wire and with fences and walls. That is not the way we would expect refugees to be treated.
Hungary too displayed signs of its inability to handle the flood of migrants coming in. It has started tightening security at its borders. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Rescue and relief operations are on in full swing in flood-hit Japan, even as a fresh spell of rain has made rescue operations difficult. At least 3 deaths have been reported so far. 24 people are missing and several remain stranded. Thousands of people have been evacuated from the capital of Tokyo and the city of Joso. The government has also issued evacuation advisories in several places as unprecedented rainfall continues. The Weather Department has predicted more heavy rain and a risk of mudslides in the coming days. Torrential rain was caused by a severe tropical storm earlier this week. And let's get you more international news now in Global Buzz. The UN General Assembly overwhelmingly approved a Palestinian resolution that will allow Palestine to fly its flag at the UN headquarters. There were 119 votes, including that of India's, in favor out of the 193 UN members. In 2012, the UNGA had granted an update of Palestine's status to non-member state, which is a symbolic recognition of its statehood. Singaporeans voted today in the general election. For the first time since independence, all 89 seats are being contested. The seats have been split into 16 group representation constituencies, where the candidates from a contesting party are required to be fielded as a team, and 13 single-member constituencies. Venezuelan opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez has been jailed for 13 years on charges of inciting the 2014 anti-government protests. It led to violence in which more than 40 people were killed, but relatives of supporters who died in the violence held a vigil outside the court. Now let's get you all the action from the US Open. In fact, rather than non-action, the women's semi-final was postponed till Friday due to the threat of heavy rain. The rescheduling means both the men's and women's semis will now be played in an action-packed day 12. Here's a preview.
Thursday evening showers along with a heavy rain forecast forced the US Open women's semi-final to be postponed for a day. Now both the men's and women's semi-final will be played on Friday. The women's semis will see the top 2 seeds pitted against 2 Italians. World number 1 Serena Williams, who is chasing a calendar Grand Slam, will take on the unseeded Roberta Vinci. The Italian reached her first Grand Slam semi-final after beating France's Kristina Mladenovic. Second seed Simona Halep, on the other hand, will square off with the 26th seed Flavia Pennetta. Halep was pushed into 3 sets in her last 2 matches. Pennetta shocked 5th seed and 2 times Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova in 3 sets in the quarterfinal. In the men's draw, world number 1 Novak Djokovic will take on defending champion Marin Cilic in the first semi-final. Djokovic owns a commanding 13-0 lead in their career head-to-head matches. Cilic, meanwhile, will look to retain his title, a feat last achieved by Roger Federer in 2008. The second semi-final will feature 17 times Grand Slam champion Roger Federer against his compatriot 5th seed Stan Wawrinka. Although Federer holds a career head-to-head advantage, Wawrinka triumphed over the world number 2 in the French Open quarterfinals en route to his 2nd Grand Slam title. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And finally, it's been 14 years since the 9/11 attack shook the world. While the US held several memorial services to mark the anniversary, NATO soldiers in Afghanistan also remember those who sacrificed their lives in the subsequent war on terror. We're leaving you with these images now.